How tough is it to be a woman in Zambian politics? That's a question for six-time Minister DORA SILIYA, who for 20 years endured countless personal insults and was accused of sleeping her way to the top.
People say, no, the reason she's always appointed a minister is because she uses her back power.
She served 3 presidents and headed 6 different ministries and faced criticism in every job.
I was arrested purely because I made a very tough decision, which I thought was the right decision, supported by 2 presidents.
DORA SILIYA's written a book about her experience, and I caught up with her on my recent trip to Lusaka. Welcome to Africa Here and Now.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
I've romped through your book. It's called Minding My Father's Country, there, the little plug there. And it's a wonderful talk through of what has happened in the last 60 years. I know you're not 60, but for 60 years, this country has gone through so many changes. But you personally, this is the nice part of the book, is that you start off with your own personal story about going to school, your mum and dad, your siblings and everything. What was it then that made you decide to eventually go into politics?
I don't know at what point the decision was made, but I know that I came from a home where I always felt that I could do anything. I grew up with girls where we believed that the sky was the ceiling, really, you know, and being a first generation of independent Zambia, I think there were more opportunities for myself compared to my mother. And I think this is where the confidence came from. Having also the right education, I felt that I owed it to my country. I felt privileged, you might say, and I felt that to whom much has been given, so much more should be done. And I wanted to do it all, everything.
And was that something, that enthusiasm and that confidence, was that something that was shared by many of your peers, your cohort, the girls you went to school with?
Definitely. I think my class produced one of the first female surgeons in this country. My school produced the first female pilot in this country. So there were quite a number of firsts from the girls I went to school with. We were just, born in the 1970s specifically. We were really like the first decade of independence Zambia. And there was just a lot of opportunities for girls like myself.
But isn't this an indication of how much emphasis was placed on education by Kaunda and by the early, basically the early leaders who thought that and educating their girls was as important as educating their boys?
Well, I think that for all post-independence parents in Zambia, they wanted their child to be a doctor, to be an economist, to be a lawyer maybe, but being a doctor and economist were the number one dreams of parents for their children. My parents too wanted me to be a doctor, and that is because they equated education with success after independence. They saw that the white government workers during the pre-independence and independence period were the bosses, so to speak, because they were educated. And so from the beginning, the political leadership and families, it was decided that we needed to invest in education. At independence, there were I think less than 100 people who had gone to university in the country, and they all had to go to the UK anyway, most of them. And so there was no doubt investment in education was seen as the key to change people's lives.
Well, you didn't become an economist.
No.
You didn't become a doctor, despite flirting with it, right?
Exactly.
But you went into journalism first. I mean, how did that come about?
Well, it was sort of by chance. I got a part-time job soon after my grade 12, and you have some sort of a gap year before you go to the university. And during that period, I ended up working at the Zambian National Broadcasting Services as a part-time DJ. Can you imagine that? I think 4 or 5 months later, I went to the university in the School of Natural Sciences. Unfortunately, I got pregnant, so I had to withdraw from the university and stay at home. I felt so disappointed with myself. I felt that I disappointed my parents so much. I'd been such a star child, I mean, academically and every other way. And I felt such a sense of responsibility that I needed to be able to look after my child myself. And so when I heard another advert for them looking for newsreaders and continuity announcers on television, I thought I'll try that. And luckily, my dear friend, Frank Umtwila, was just in the right place at the right time, because he said, you know what, Dora, you could do very well on TV. A year later, I just decided I was going to pursue mass communication and continued with the job while I was at university. And the rest is history.
All right, so you've got a baby, you've dabbled now in broadcasting, but what I think I really want to hear from you is about your emergence onto the political scene, because if I'm right in saying you've had at least 5 ministries, you've worked in 5 ministries, each ministry is a job, a specialisation. So let's start with how you actually got into party politics. I mean, it was a political family, was it?
No, not at all. I'm the first politician in my family. After university, I went to Cambridge, obviously. When I came back, I had such a hunger to do something for my country. I was very lucky. I got a job managing a project as a deputy manager for a big EU project in Zambia. Zambia was just coming from this return to multi-party politics just within the decade from 1991. This was about 1998, 99. And I wanted to fit in. I wanted to support. So working for the EU, I'm really grateful, because it gave me such an opportunity to travel around this country. And all the things I was learning in my development studies classes in Zambia and in the UK, suddenly I saw the challenges in the country. And I felt that even though I was working for this big organization supporting private sector, things conspired to a point where I felt the only way I could really be heard is if I became a member of parliament. And so in 2001, feeling a bit frustrated at work, I'd also just recently gotten married. I think it was too much. A very demanding job, a new marriage. I sort of felt as if I'd lost myself, you know? And I thought, maybe, in fact, not myself. I think a friend of mine suggested, you know what? You just keep complaining. Why don't you do something about it? Run for MP.
And you were how old?
I was 29, 30.
So I think you were the youngest elected female member of parliament.
I was the youngest to run at that point, but I lost the first time.
You lost.
I lost in 2001. I mean, I was so shocked. I had never failed at anything, you know, in my life. And here I am feeling so confident, telling the people what I would do for them, development issues. At my first meeting, I remember talking, and I could see I've lost the audience, you know? And I could hear whispers, murmurs behind from my team. And then suddenly one of them said, the word development is chitukuko. I didn't even know what the word development was in my local language at that time. And I was arrogant enough to think I could win. But it was a good pre-run. It taught me a lot and prepared me for being elected 4 times after that.
And
you know?
proved without doubt that all politics is local.
All politics is local. I say that in my book, that definitely I learned that lesson very well and very hard, and was elected 4 times.
What are we talking about in terms of the party political landscape at this point? We're talking 1998, 2000. We're talking the end of Chiluba.
The end of Chiluba, but the same party, and then we had Levy Mwanawasa.
MMD,
Yeah, MMD.
Levy Mwanawasa.
From 2001. So to join the party, I mean, I had not been a member of any political party. My family is very political in terms of talking, but they're really not active politicians. My parents were never politicians. My mother is a teacher by profession. My father is a public administrator. So I knew that I needed to get in. So how am I going to get in? Now, luckily, my ex-boyfriend had given me a book once he bought in the US. And it's titled 9 Secrets of Women Who Get Everything They Want.
Oh, can you pass that on?
And one of the secrets was, look, if you want something, go to the person who has the power to give it to you. I'm a good student. I looked at the party and I thought, who has the power in this party? President Chiluba. And of course, life sometimes, you're just in the right place at the right time. Because of my history at ZNBC, I ended up knowing who was President Chiluba's media advisor at that point in time, Bevan Ndovie. And so I called him. I said, look, I have a proposal for the president. The party is not doing very well. He's going out. And I don't see many young women and educated women who are going to stand on his party. So I'd like to speak with him. And he just said, no problem. 3 days later, I was sitting in front of President Chiluba and asking myself, what are you doing, Dora? Oh my God, what are you going to say? But I prepared myself. And I remember saying, I'm going to sit up, back straight. And after the banter, he just said, okay, what can I do for you?
You see, but that's audacity. You had audacity and it paid off.
Yes, it did. Yes, it did. I mean, I'd rehearsed my speech and I said exactly this. Mr. President, I've come to make you an offer. He laughed so much. I mean, he laughed so much. And I was thinking, what is he laughing at me? But I think he was just pleasantly surprised. He was so pleasantly surprised.
And so you've entered politics in a serious way. What was the environment like? What was the atmosphere like for a young woman going to run for her first seat, clever and educated? Because you make the point in the book that a lot of MPs at that point were not terribly well educated, not terribly well experienced either. So how did they react to you?
I joined politics 2930. I left 2021 at 51. Basically, 20 years of my adult life has been in politics. Oh my God. I mean, there were really, really difficult moments sometimes. Even just getting the party to adopt me, to put my name on the ballot paper, I think 3 times it was so difficult. It was just difficult, and sometimes I couldn't understand. I just felt that I was being discriminated because I'm a woman. And then many times I mentioned in the book that people said, she is too young. Just said that. She is too young. But I think a lot had to do with whom we expected to be a female politician. It wasn't this girl coming from middle class with educated parents. It wasn't this girl who was exposed, who had been on TV. People were expecting, there was a stereotype around who should be a politician in Zambia. And I think I broke that mold. I'm happy now when I see so many young women from different backgrounds, educated women, and wanting to be part of this. It was quite difficult, but I proved myself always. I was minister 6 times. I proved myself in very difficult ministries. I mean, being Minister of Education for 3 years was one of the most difficult things I did. In the first 1 month when I was appointed, there was a riot at the university against me as a minister. It was not because I was not well educated. It was just, but she's a woman and she's young and she's too stylish. I mean, when I was Minister of Agriculture, they said, look at her nails. Where has she ever been to a farm? So I always had to prove myself. Always. When I was Minister of Energy, they said, what? What does she know about energy? I always had to prove myself. I was Minister of Information and Broadcasting as my last portfolio, even though I came from this field in terms of mass communication. There's still a lot of challenges because suddenly people were not saying she's not qualified. They were saying she's too powerful. She has too much power. She's too young. She's just come. This was now in a new party. She has come into a new party. Why should she have so much power? So it was always navigating that and trying to say, you know what? The goal is the people of Zambia. That doesn't change. I worked across 2 political parties. And in my mind, having a family that understands me, that loves me, that cares for me, I think is what helped me to last those 20 years, knowing who I am.
Because you detail, and I suspect you left out quite a lot, but what you do put in the book is actually quite horrifying. The kinds of personal attacks, the kind of vendettas that were against you, the personal attacks, the personal abuse, and coming not just from your male colleagues, it must be said.
From women too. I've been following the cyber law discussions and debates around the world, and I am happy that we're talking about these things. I think beginning 2008, 9, 10, with the whole social media, almost like rebirth and so on, people felt very emboldened to hide behind, the computer and think they can say anything about everybody. This year, the Zambia enacted, well, at least improved, in fact, on the very cyber laws that we took to Parliament in 2019, 2020. I'm happy. Some people were surprised. Why? Because I said, look, everybody should have their freedom of expression. But where yours ends, someone else's begin. And to have the power to just want to destroy somebody's life for politics. I mean, I had some of the worst headlines that you've ever heard of. I mean, I remember people saying, no, the reason she's always appointed a minister is because she uses her back power. And I thought, I was invited to a women's meeting, and I said, look, let's talk about these things. Why would it be so easy for me alone to use my back power to get to the top? Why would you use yours to get to the bottom? Of course, I'm trying to make a point that, come on, let us give each other respect. And the next day, the headline in the paper was, Dora says she uses her back power to get to the top. I mean, I always say journalists don't operate in a vacuum. They operate in a very specific environment with a very specific culture and a very specific understanding of the situation.
And an enabling environment.
Exactly. An environment that should then, enable people to see that discrimination is bad, being misogyny is bad, being derogatory towards women is bad, and not to encourage it. And we suffered this in this country for 20 years, where media, tabloids, went out of their way always to attack women. And not just me. There was another leader who just passed recently, Edith Nawakwi. I mean, she went through some of the worst headlines I've seen.
Do you think, on reflection, that perhaps you made mistakes? To go with hindsight, would you go back and do things differently?
No, I would not. I feel that I was at the right place at the right time. And if somebody needed to be one of the pioneers, well, why not me? But it was not easy. It was very lonely. It was isolating. It was difficult. And sometimes you looked at some of what I would even call the mediocre men really believe that, they are entitled and you are not. I don't regret it. I did my job to the best of my capability. And over time, I think the citizens have come to appreciate me now in a way that is different, because they see that everywhere I went, I made decisions that left an impact.
And would you say over this 20-year period or so, would you say that things have improved significantly?
I think the cyber law is going to help. Most of the women I've spoken to, even after I wrote my book, most of the women who call me are like, oh my God, Dora, I don't think I will go into politics now after reading your book. It's terrifying. It's really terrifying for them. But I think now the cyber laws are helping to say, if you are going to lie about somebody, you are liable. And the examples have been given, because I took people to court and they were arrested. So I think that people are feeling a bit more confident now that they're a bit protected, But the culture needs to change. To me, it's misogynistic and it needs to change.
I was going to say the sort of socio-cultural impact upon women is still being felt. Zambia still has among the lowest percentage of female participation in elective politics on the continent. I mean, in the SADC region, I believe the average is about 26%. Zambia is rumbling along at about 14%.
14%. Many women are scared of politics. I mean, they have told me, Dora, it's too much. It's too much, because instead of issues, people believe that it must be about you, the person, and now we have the tribal issues. So it's moving away from the very objectives of returning to multi-party politics in 1991, and it is destructive.
On this issue of tribe, I'm hearing that tribe is playing a very important part in terms of the way politics is being conducted at the moment.
Yesterday, I was teaching my class development studies students, and we were talking about conflict. And I asked them, do you think Zambia is peaceful or there is a conflict in Zambia? I was so shocked. the young people said, we have conflict, tribal conflict. It is real. I mean, it is real. I think for the first time in my life, myself, I'm really feeling it, that this tribal tension is real. We have to look at the genesis. I think this has been going on since the 60s. The issues of whether it is the Tongas versus the Bembas and the Easterners. I think it's been going on for a very long time. But multi-party politics and the stakes, as I say in the book, is really about business. I think now the stakes are higher. And there is such a fight to the end. And it's disappointing for me, because as far as the young people are concerned, we should just be talking about, where's your manifesto? Where's your manifesto? But now it's about, no. It's this tribe versus this tribe. And it's extremely dangerous.
Where should leadership be coming from, therefore, to try to nip this in the bud? Because, as you say, there's conflict, or the young people think there's conflict, that could erupt into violence.
We can't have political parties based on tribal lines. It is at political parties that we must correct issues. We must have reform at political parties where we attract people because we have a plan for the country, not purely because you're one of us.
And what's the situation now? Is that the case?
That is the case now. So political parties are based on regional groupings, you see. So it has become this tribe, it's this political party versus this political party, but in reality, it's this region versus this region, this tribe versus this tribe, and it is wrong. I mean, it's the first time I've seen now in the country that even on Twitter, young people are arguing, if you are this tribe, if you are this party, then automatically you are this tribe. And it is quite dangerous if we are not careful. This is the first time we'd have a civil war in this country, because even people you expect to be reasonable don't want to argue except along political party and tribal lines. Not an issue.
And this is a situation that has deteriorated over the years.
It has. It has.
Zambia is a country of what, 73 different tribal ethnic groups?
Yes.
How many languages?
So many languages. I mean, we say we've got 7 official languages, but we have so many dialects. I mean, basically 73 languages, so to speak.
So, in your opinion, why has tribalism entrenched itself in Zambia that of 1991 didn't necessarily have that?
I think it has to do a lot with economic inequality. I think as the country has developed more, there's a lot of inequality now. And I think the World Bank says Zambia is one of the 4 countries in the world with the highest inequality, behind South Africa, Namibia, and Suriname. So the inequality is a lot. So there's so much at stake. And now with the potential of the mines doing well, there's so much at stake, you know, for people who want power for business. And I think that nobody can say that, no, they are not using it for that. I think that both sides, it's power for business. And I think that we need to reorient ourselves as a nation about what are democratic politics. They should be about issues.
And this has to come from the leadership, doesn't it?
Oh, yes, the leadership, family level as well. I think that there's a lot that must be done at family level. I think we've lost a lot in this country at the family level. I really believe so. The problem of drug abuse, the problem of many children not remaining in school, the work ethic. I think a lot also has to do at both family level, community level, but there must be leadership. Obviously, leadership must lead. And leadership here, it cannot just be the person who's president at this time. I think we need a national conversation across political parties on this is our country.
What I'm trying to find out about is the political climate at the moment, because I read a lot, I talk to a lot of people. There are many people that are incredibly critical of the situation now, talking about Zambia becoming a country of authoritarianism for the first time, well, certainly since 1991. And the shrinking democratic space. Many of the intellectuals are pointing out that it is now the Public Order Act of 1955, I believe, that has still not been reviewed, and criticising the present administration for that. And a lot of people are not very happy with those cyber laws that you were talking about, saying that once again, that it empowers the authorities way too much and erodes private freedoms.
On the cyber laws, I think it's work in progress. They were introduced during the time I was in government, 2019. I think it is work in progress. It is true that the situation was going out of hand, but at the same time, I think that there is room for improvement to ensure that we must safeguard everybody's rights. The issue of the Public Order Act, once again, it is an issue we must address. And I think sometimes we are putting the cart before the horse, because yes, it is abused by every administration that's been in office. I've served 5 presidents, all of them have seen it. It's abused at every point, when presidents are in office. But I think no matter how many laws we make, I think something in Zambia has been lost. Some sort of a reflection of who we really are. Because the kind of violence I am seeing, the kind of political insults I'm seeing, the kind of political intolerance, even among the young people. It is so much that I really shudder that sometimes that what's going to happen going forward, because we're bringing in now the police in the politics, we're bringing in the army in the politics, and whether the Public Order Act is there or not, how are we going to live with each other if we just can't be tolerant of political opinion, away from insults and violence and so on, but just being tolerant? Beyond the law, we need to change as a people.
And you know what really, really struck me reading your book was how each administration that you worked with basically operated in the same way.
Yes.
And when the successful party that took office then basically quashed the losing party. And this is a pattern that's been repeated over and over. And it actually seems, the word that sprung to mind was vindictive.
Vindictive.
It's a politics of vindictiveness that seems to be here.
Winner takes all, and you embarrass the losing group. And so when they regroup under another name, when they come back, the cycle continues. And I was really hoping, I truly hoped that during this administration, we might do things differently, we might change it, but for some reason, we have not. And I think those who care about this country, before next year's elections, we have to come together and say, what are the rules? What will be the rules? Because if we go into an election next year with the kind of polarization I am seeing, I'm really afraid for my country, because it's almost as if it's a do or die situation with such high levels of poverty in a country where 60%, 70% of people are in poverty, in a country where the reading skills now among most of the children are not there, with all the potential we are supposed to have. If it's not translated into opportunities, even these so many youths we say are almost 80-90% of the population, what kind of adults of citizens will they be in the future? And once that infrastructure, social infrastructure, breaks down, it is very difficult to correct a country.
If this polarization that you describe isn't addressed, what would your predictions be for next year?
I think that if we don't do anything now, there'll be a lot of mistrust, and mistrust leads to violence, and violence can lead to anything, and that's what we don't want. I think that I would urge that the responsibility lies on the government now to reach out to the various political parties and say, we need to have a Zambia summit. We need to get together and say, this is our country. These are just politics. There can only be one president at a time. And what is not good for politics, we must be able to quickly stem it. Violence, teaching young people in political parties to be violent, teaching people on social media to just insult other people. I mean, all those vices, I think they need to be addressed at a leadership summit of political leaders to say we need to create a space where even women will feel free. Because I really wonder if women will feel free to go out in the last elections. I mean, we, for the first time in my life, in my constituency, after 20 years, I heard gunshots, I saw stabbings, I saw people burning cars, and I had never seen it before. So why are we here? Well, and this is a rural area. I believe worse was happening in the city. Now, that was 2021, and yet it has only become worse and worse, the tension. And it's a tribal issue. It's about business. It's about using political parties really to perpetuate tribal issues, and we need to change.
We haven't mentioned one word, and that's corruption, the big C. And every administration has come in saying that that's going to be top of their priorities in terms of the agenda. Have we seen much improvement?
Corruption is endemic in Zambia. I think across administrations, it has become such a way of life that people expect to pay at the traffic stop. They expect to pay to get their passport. I mean, not the usual fees, but above the usual fees. They expect to pay somebody to get their passports on time. They expect to pay somebody at the hospital to get an appointment quickly. It has become endemic. And when I was teaching my students, again, we were talking about corruption, and one of them said, but why is it in the Scandinavian countries they have, such low levels of corruption? And I said, it is citizen responsibility. It might be at the extreme level there, but that's what we've lost here, citizen responsibility. We have begun to think it is normal, and the one that actually feels this shouldn't happen, in the end feels frustrated because they think everybody is doing it. Why shouldn't I be the one not to do it? So we need to get back to the basics, to issues of family, to issues of shared national vision. What are our aspirations for our country, for our children, for our people? We can't keep saying, no, me, I'll work hard and I'll go and live in America. Things have changed. Or I'll go and... To me, let me tell you, Martin, it is so sad to see the issue of immigrants being discussed on BBC, on CNN every day. Because clearly, if we thought what Tony Blair referred to as the scar of the earth, now it's a wound again, it's festering. How can 60 years after independence, our young people still see no hope to live in this continent and to find a life that can be good for them? They think they'd rather go and be on the streets of Rome or on the streets of London or New York. So we need a leadership summit, not just in Zambia, but on the continent, to reset and say, what was it that the Nkurumas, the Kaundas, and them were fighting for? And where did we lose it? Education is a good place to start, but public service delivery is another place. And that's where we must understand that corruption indeed takes away from the people, that corruption, when it becomes endemic, it's so difficult to stem, that families must be people must have affordable families where they should believe that they can do the best for their children so that their children don't feel desperate and that somebody else should be looking after them. These are tough discussions, but we need to have them beyond just vote for me, vote for me. No, but vote for you for what? We must see those things discussed so that leadership can be appreciated for being bold about those things. The issue of corruption, it's a song for presidents for election time. The issue of the Public Order Act, it's a song for presidents. But the issues are real. The alcohol abuse among the young people, the drug abuse, the crime that is coming up. Yes, we have stabilized the economy in terms of debt restructuring. But the families, at family level, things are still quite difficult. And that's where we must address the message. And that's where all leaders in this country who have political parties, for me, are failing.
Now, you've been through a huge amount in your 20 plus years of public service. And you've managed to bring up a family, you've got one son and two grandchildren. Yes, 2 grandchildren. How have you managed? How would you say to young women today who perhaps feel themselves inclined towards politics, inclined towards some element of public service, tell them how you managed?
I think I only managed because of my family. I don't think I'd have managed it any other way. It's difficult to be in politics every day. It's difficult to, especially in Zambia, it is difficult to be able to, you have to commit all your time, especially as a woman. Because if you don't, you'll not be on the table and they'll make decisions behind your back. So it is not easy. But you need to prepare yourself. Chance favors the prepared, as I always say. Have the necessary education. Don't say politics is where you go because you have nothing better to do. No. We can't reinvent the wheel. The world is moving so fast. Economic issues are so complex. Media issues, technology are so complex. The world is moving. And for Africa, it's even worse. We have so many problems. So we have to put our best forward. We must put our best forward. We've seen people in parliament sleeping. We've seen people in cabinet meetings sleeping. I think women should not say, I'm going to go into politics because I'm a woman. It's not enough. We should even work harder. So that means we must be the most prepared. But the real barrier to politics is going to be money. The elections have become so expensive. I mean, I just had an EU job in 2001 and decided I can run for elections. It's impossible now. People are spending millions of dollars on elections now. And that's why I say it's closing out. It's becoming a game for men, and most women are going to be left out.
I mean, you were even arrested, weren't you?
Yes, I was arrested purely because I made a very tough decision, which I thought was the right decision, supported by two presidents, Levy Mwanawasa before he died, and then Rupiah Banda, that we needed to sell a stake in the national telecoms because it's not doing well. I understand people feel sentimental about these issues, but for me, it was the determination to make me the culprit. Even when the final transaction was done, I wasn't there at all. So it was just this determination to isolate me, to choose me for what they thought I represented. It's one of the saddest periods of my time.
Vindictive and bullying.
Yeah.
That was
bullying. Pure bullying.
That was what came across when you recounted that episode.
Pure bullying. She's probably the one who I was the party spokesperson. So clearly it was okay. We'll target her and we'll bully her. I'm a media person. I absolutely love the power of journalism, but it can be abused.
So finally, Dora, can I ask you again, if you had your time all over, would you do it differently? Is there anything you'd change?
Maybe I'll be less competitive and think that sometimes sometimes when you're the only woman in the place, often maybe you're more combative, you're more, maybe you take everything too seriously. Maybe there were times I would have probably reached out more. But otherwise, no, not much. I think that it would have happened exactly the way it happened because it's the only reason I'm sitting opposite you right now.
Dora Siliyya. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Oh, this was good. Thank you.
Dora's book is called Minding My Father's Country. It's published by Reach Publishers. Please remember to like, subscribe and share with everyone you think will be interested. Don't forget our website, AfricaHere&NOW.com. There you can catch up with all our past shows. You can follow me on the socials. I'm at Martine Dennis on X. Our wonderful original music is by Emmerich Adam. Anne Busby and Simon Elliott put the show together. My thanks to Costa Mwansa of Diamond TV in Lusaka for his hospitality. My thanks, of course, to my guest, Dora Siliyya. And as ever, my thanks to you for your company. See you next time.